but in order to get this benefit, you have to have a high new mutational burden, and about 44% of these patients have a high new mutational burden. So basically what that means is it means that BMS is going to cut in to Keytruda or to Merck's market share, because right now Merck dominates for first line, right? In non-small cell. First line, you got three things that we use. If you got high PD-L1 over 50%, you get pembrolizumab. If you got PD-L1 over 1% and you're non-squamous, you get pembro plus chemo. And if you're squamous or have zero PD-L1, you just get chemotherapy. And then second line, you can get an anti-PD-1, right? So basically, 2/3 of the market share for first line non-small cell goes to Merck. And basically, that's a lot of patients because you got 80,000 patients with metastatic disease. So what's 2/3 of that? 50, 60,000, right? However, if the data on Ipi/Nivo in the first line non-small cell shows a plateau on a survival curve, boom, then it's going to cut. Then Ipi/Nivo is going to cut into pembro chemo. And basically what's going to happen is it's going to be like around 50-50, 60-40. Still Merck and BMS will be carving up, the first line non-small cell, like 50-50 or 60-40 depending. So that was data based on the ASCO 2008, which just happened like a week ago. We got all this data. So that's what's going on. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So back to the urothelial PD-L1 level. So let's say you had a patient with urothelial FGF3 genomic alteration, but low PD-L1. Do you think that there would be? What would you think of if a patient was randomized to get FGFR versus PD-1? So FGF mono versus. Do you think that that's rational, or do you think you still need to compare PD-1?
Yeah, it's possible they could benefit. Look, we do have patients that are PD-L1 negative that benefit, right? And the reason they benefit is the following. PD-1, the receptor on the T cells, the PD-1 receptor binds two ligands. It binds PD-L1 expressed by the tumor and PD-L2 expressed by the tumor, right? So there are some patients, right, that are PD-L1 negative that have high PD-L2 expressed by the tumor. And if you can block that PD-L2 expressed by the tumor from binding to PD-1 receptor expressed by the immune cell, then boom, you reverse tolerance and you make your T cells functional. So yeah, you could potentially, we see this. We see patients that have negative expression and they're getting benefits. So I would say the same thing is applicable to FGFR. Certainly possible that some patients with negative PD-L1 could respond, but you got to do the study, and I don't know any study so far that's looked at. There's no study I'm aware of that has selected out FGFR patients and treated them with PD-L1s that I'm aware of.
Yeah, no. I'm saying if you did like monotherapy FGFR versus PD-1 therapy. You're yeah. Okay, you're going to fail. You're going to fail. FGFR are not nearly as potent as anti-PD-1s. You will fail. PD-1s are just really, really potent, strong. And notice nobody's going head-to-head. You see any head-to-head trials like Nivo versus durvalumab? Nobody is going head-to-head with this stuff. You will fail. You're at best. What you're going to do with your FGFR, you're going to combine it with an anti-PD-1, so you'll increase your market share because then everybody that's got the mutation will have to get it along with an anti-PD-1. Or you can look at it in later lines of therapy. And generally what we do is the drug gets approved for later lines of therapy because it's easy. You just have to do a single-arm trial, like I said before, and get orphan drug status, so you get approved. And then you see how competitive the drug is, after you get some more data. And if it's very competitive and you think you can make a difference, you can add it to PD-1. If it's not so competitive, well, maybe you'd prefer to go with other things. The market is getting really crowded. And how do medical oncologists select their drugs? We look at outcome metrics, and we take the drug with the best outcome metric. Even though there's no head-to-head trials, we just look at, well, in this first line study, this combo had this for